Hello and welcome to the virtual class, and this is Ricky Pal, and I'm going to take the very first chapter of Civics class 10th, that is power sharing. In this chapter, will this the whole chapter I've divided into two parts. This will be the first video, and we're going to have the second video. Okay, this is the very first chapter, power sharing. So let's start with the meaning of the power sharing. So it is a technique to share the power at different levels. It is an idea inculcated in democracy so that the power is not concentrated in one hand only, and that different forms can keep a check on each other. What does it mean? Actually, if it is says like the power sharing, if the meaning is saying that the sharing of power at different levels, right? And why we are sharing the power? The very idea of power sharing is to we can say disallow the authorities to concentrate all the power in their own hand, and that is why we come up with the method of power sharing. And through this power sharing, each level or each organs of the government, they can keep a check on each other. Okay, so through power sharing, and we all know, we can say it is the very idea that inculcated in democracy. So if this democracy is there, if you talk about democracy, then we should have the power sharing. If there is no power sharing, then we cannot say that particular country is a democratic country. So what actually power sharing do? Power sharing, this particular thing divides the power into different levels of the government and different constituent units. So the idea is very clear. But then why we need to share the power, right? So why is power sharing desirable? Why we desire power sharing? Why it should be there? So it has two, I mean to say, the two different reasons, right? One is prudential reasons, which we are saying, right? And another one is moral reasons. Prudential reasons having two categories why we need power sharing. It clearly shows that it reduces the possibility of conflicts. So when we share the power, it reduces the conflicts. Number two, it provides stability to the government, right? So it provides stability, like we have discussed in the previous class, that is class 9 French Evolution. You have all seen, right? Like that, how the people, how the whole government was very unstable, right? Even though it was been declared by the Robespierre that the France was a republic, becomes a republic, but then Robespierre concentrated all his power in his own hand, right? It did not adopt the method of power sharing, so it leads to instability in the country. Okay, and another one is moral reasons, right? So why more, basically what is moral reason? Power sharing is a very spirit of democracy. If there is a democracy, right, then the power sharing should be there. So it is a very spirit of democracy. It made a democracy more powerful, we can say, right? People have a right to be consulted on how they are to be governed, right? Then after that, why we need power sharing? After that, what are the different forms of power sharing? Power sharing has different forms, right? Like first one is power is shared among different organs of the government. Number two is power is shared among government at different levels. Number three is power is shared among different social groups. And number four is power is also shared among political parties, pressure groups, and movements. So among all these four, the power has been all shared. One by one, we're going to see how it is, right? So it is power sharing among organs of the government. So so the question comes, what are the three organs of the government? So first one is legislature, executive, and judiciary. First one is legislature, second is executive, and third one will be judiciary. Okay, So, and here it is the role of legislature, it has been clearly mentioned, the role of executive is mentioned, and the role of judiciary is clearly mentioned here in the bracket. So legislature is a law making body, okay, which makes the law for the country. And what executes do? Executes is implementing those law that has been made by the legislature, right? So the second organ is executive, because they're executing the law that framed by legislature. Now what is the role of judiciary then? Role of judiciary is to resolve disputes among whom? Disputes among anybody, like any two individual, like any individual, between individual and state, between two state, between central and state, between an individual and the central. So any kind of dispute between anybody, it has to be resolved by the judiciary. So we have three different organs having different roles to play, and each and every organs they checked on, they used to keep an eye on other working. So here it is written, legislature, executive and judiciary keep a check on each other. This results in a balance of power among various institutions. This arrangement is also called a system of check and balance. If something, for example, if legislature made certain rules, right, that is not appropriate for the society, right, then executive, while executing, see the problem and can convey this to legislature, and legislature can make certain changes in the law. But then if executive also did not see and implement the law, then judiciary will look after the things. When people they come up with their own grievances, then the judiciary will going to recommend legislature to change the existing law, right? So in the same in this way, the this particular arrangement is also called a system of check and balance. Now is a power sharing at different levels of the government. So another previous one was organ, now it is the levels of the government. So the first question that comes here is, what are the different levels of the government? So see, these are the three different levels of the government: central government, state government and local self government. We can say local government also, but then if you're writing local self government, it is completely fine. But we should not write the municipalities or municipal corporation or village panchayat, right? Because it is itself a local body. But we are having three kinds of local body: one in rural area, or another one is for urban area. So for the urban area, it may be municipalities or municipal corporation, but for the village area, it should be village panchayat, right? So power has been shared between these three levels of the government. Another one was like power is shared among different social groups, right? Under this arrangement, government and administration give space to the diverse social groups, right? Diverse social groups for what? To raise up their voice. I mean, if the power is shared among different social groups, means there are different social groups taking care of minorities, right? Like SC, ST. We are having the reservations as well, right? We are having the reserved constituencies as well. So for that, the power is being shared between different social groups as well, so that they can work for the betterment of the society. In this way, the minority communities get a fair share in power. So they can come forward and they can come in power and to change the society if it is not working properly. Then the fourth form of power, the very fourth one was, here is power sharing among political parties, pressure groups and movements. So here it is, in democracy, different parties compete to come to power. We having different political parties, they are contesting election, they are competing to come into the power. And in case no party gets majority, the time comes when no party gets the majority, then what will happen? Two or more parties from an forms an alliance. They'll form a group. Alliance is a group to come to power and forms coalition government. Coalition government here is when two or more parties forms an alliance to come to power. We call it as coalition government. So this is all about forms of government. So in this video we have read about the meaning of power sharing, why we need power sharing, and what are the different forms of power sharing, right? We'll see in the next video. There are certain case studies we need to cover up. Till then, thank you.